Are there any? I have to confess, I haven't had a chance to like read the books, but is there anything that like stands out to you guys that is portrayed a little bit differently on the show?
Oh, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
The way I always talk about this is the show is a retelling of books, but it's not the books. It's not like taking the books and just filming them. It's like the difference between Tim Burton's Batman and Christopher Nolan's Batman. They're the same story, but it's a different object.
I think you have a science background.
I would, technically, I have a thin little science background. I have a bachelor's degree in biology.
And my question for both of you was, first off, how important was researching the science as you were writing, and do you have any advice for aspiring writers who don't have
Almost, in spite of his biology background, almost all of that comes from me. Although in the more recent books, there have been more biological elements showing up that his
once you get into the
background
wet stuff, I'm more useful.
Yeah.
When it's just the rocks, ties the guys.
Okay.
and it wasn't anything that I set about researching specifically to be scientifically accurate. It's just something that I find interesting. So I used to read a lot of astronomy books about the solar system, and I have this weird, sort of weirdly photographic memory for if my brain has a really good filing system, so if somebody says arrows, like immediately in my head pops up all the facts I know about arrows. So as we're writing, Daniel would say like, what's Titan look like? I'm like, oh yeah, Titan's got this and it's got that. And I won't remember unless somebody else mentions it first. But so a lot of that reading I had done just winds up in the books.
Yeah, if there was one piece of advice, actually, it would be read stuff that you're interested in, because we did almost no research, especially at the beginning, additionally to what we were already just enthusiastic about, but we were science geeks. So we had that.
Yeah.
And then we wrote in our geekdom, and it worked out well. I've also wound up writing about economics, because it turns out that's something else I'm a geek. You wouldn't think it would be applicable to fiction, but it's worked out okay.
Great. Is there any other science fiction books that you guys were inspired by before you started collaborating?
The one we bring up all the time that is, I think, has the most direct lineage is Alfred Bester's classic novel, The Star's My Destination, which is very much about humanity trapped in our solar system, but spread out everywhere in the solar system on the outer planets and inner planets. And a sort of, the story isn't about it, but in that setting, there's a war going on between the outer planets and the inner planets. And I read that, I think, when I was like 11, which is way too young to read that book. Do not give your kid that book when they're 11. But it just that idea stuck in my head, and I know he's a fan of that book too. So I think that was probably. And then the other one we always mention is the movie Alien, the first one, the Ridley Scott one. Just mostly for the characters, because again, I saw that when I was like 11 or 12. Which again, don't let your kid watch that at 11 or 12. But the characters are Parker and Brett from Alien. They're the guys who wear coveralls and they have tool belts on and they're fixing leaky pipes. That those people could be part of a science fiction future, because up until then I'd watched Star Trek, and everybody in Star Trek is an admiral or a scientist, or and they all wear perfect uniforms, and you never see who cleans the bathroom on the Enterprise. Who does that, right? But in Alien, you had Parker and Brett, and they're the guys who unclog the toilet and fix the pipes and complain that they're not getting paid enough. And just the idea of science fiction told from their perspective has always resonated with me. I want to read stories about those guys in space.
All the
Anyone.
So you guys have been pretty involved with the development of the show, right? What has been kind of, I guess, the most exciting moment seeing it all and like being part of that development?
There's a lot of them. There's a lot to pick from. The thing that has been actually most interesting for me, the thing that's been the part that made my eyes light up, was finding out what all of the structures are and all of the process are, and how cool film editing is. And it turns out film editing is incredibly cool. I will wind up at some point writing fiction about film editing now, because economics and biology. It's great. You?
It's weird that it wound up this way, but Daniel fell in love with post-production, and I fell in love with prep. So hanging out with the art department and working with those guys to decide what spaceships look like and what the space stations look like, and all of that kind of stuff. I worked a lot with the visual effects department on what things should look like in the visual effects world. All of that sort of prep stuff. I guess some of it is in post too, but just the design of things was where I really got excited.
The characters, they have so many layers to them, and so many, like, each has a unique life experience. What's it like to kind of build those characters from the ground up, and is there one that each of you identify with the most?
Well, with any character, what you're doing is reporting on your experience of life through whatever lens you have with that person. So the nice thing about people, you guys and us and all of us, is we're actually profoundly deep and weird all the time, and finding, little portraiture things you can do to take that out of yourself and put it there is fun. It's one of the great things about writing. It's not something that, I think more it's harder to pull back and have a character be simple enough to fit on a page, edit them down to that. And the ways that the directions you take that from are what make the different characters. As far as favorite character, I always love writing Christian. Abasarala is my favorite character to write.
And Amos is me if I have 10% less empathy. Amos is my id. He's who I would be if I just was slightly less empathetic for other humans.
Which isn't at all scary for me to work with him. I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, I have Amos to get that out of my system.
If you guys had the option, if like space tourism becomes a reality in the next 10 years, and the option to travel somewhere in space, regardless of like the dangers, would you take that?
I would. He would.
It was hard getting me on a flight out here. I like my couch a lot. I really want people on Mars. I really want people on Ceres. I really want humanity to spread through the solar system and the stars, and I would like to watch it on my TV near my stuff with my wife and my kid. That would be perfect for me.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.